What's happening? It's your girl, Most Sketty, your hostess with the mostest. Welcome to the Moment with Most Sketty podcast. Like I said, I'm your host, Most Sketty, your auntie, sister, cousin, best friend, always coming with the realness. Here to sit with you, engage with you, connect with you about mental health, about spiritual wellness. I am so very glad to be back. I am on the mic by myself today, but well, technically, but my producer, he be in the background sometimes, so you never know. You never know if he'll make a guest appearance. But regardless, I'm on the mic myself this week. We're gonna talk about some mental health and spiritual wellness. Today's title of the show is High Value Human. High Value Human. We're gonna talk about what a high value human is, how to be a high value human, and what compromises the values of said high value humans. So we gonna get into that in a second. But you already know, before we get going, I gotta do the church announcement. I still ain't came up with a church announcements theme song. I was supposed to write one when I was on break, but you know what? When I went on break, I thought I was going to do a lot of things. Get a lot of things situated. I thought I was going to have a nice opportunity to rest, but I also thought I was going to get an opportunity to do some writing, some different creative things. And it really was rest season. It was Moschetti, sit down and gather your energy because it's going to be go time pretty soon. And it's go time right now. And so, I ain't got no theme song for the church announcements yet, but regardless, we're going to get into it. So, church announcements, woo! I am very childish. It's okay. So for the first church announcement that we got going on here, look, I have already officially announced for those to save the date, but if you haven't heard, we are slotted to have a Moschetti Birthday Spectacular variety show. I am exceptionally excited about this. I'm incredibly excited about this. We did the Moschetti Christmas Spectacular variety show. It was such a good time. When I tell you that show went more perfecter than I could ever imagine. It went more perfecter than I could ever imagine. And so we're going to run that back. But in the meantime, get ready to celebrate my birthday with me. So if you didn't get an opportunity to come to the Christmas Spectacular variety show, there's going to be some of the same elements. We're going to have some singing. We're going to have some dancing. We're going to have some comedy. We're going to have a good time. So clear schedule for the evening of Friday, May 3rd. More details will be coming soon. Tickets are scheduled to go on sale probably April 3rd or April 5th, either a month out from the date or a month out from my birthday. I'll figure that out when we get closer. Mind your business until I tell it to you. But anywho, the Moschetti Birthday Spectacular variety show will be coming in May, and I'm really excited about it. I'm cooking up something much bigger than the Christmas Spectacular variety show, so I hope y'all are ready. All right, so the next church announcement is actually coming from the desk of my own church. So I attend the Central Church of Christ here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And this Saturday, March 23rd, we will be having a church cleanup. So we will be beautifying our landscaping and thus beautifying the neighborhood. So it will be an outdoor cleanup. We'll be picking up the trash, getting together the greenery that we have outside and just making the outside much more pleasant, much more inviting now that we're coming into springtime and getting it all ready so when the sun comes out we're able to enjoy it just a little bit more. So if you're interested in doing that, let me know. Actually, you don't even have to let me know. You can just show up to the church on Saturday. It's in the announcements. And this is not just something that is an invitation to those who are members of the Church of Christ or members of Central. This is an open invitation to anybody in the area who is going to be anywhere near 18th and North Avenue. If you want to participate in making sure that our community is beautiful, you can start out by helping the church pick up a little bit of trash. And if you want to go a little bit further, pick some up from the rest of the neighborhood. But really, it's open to anybody who's willing and able to help us out and make everything much more beautiful. And beautifying North Avenue ain't always on most people's agendas. And so I think we need to make it, because if we care anything about value our communities, we'll pour into them. Okay. So with that being said, let's transition and get on into the show. Tone, can you pull up my comments because I don't see them and I don't know if anybody has commented. Because if Mom Sketty is in here, nah, she must not be in here yet because I don't see her comment up there. Thank you so much. All right, so let's get into it. High value human. High value human. So I picked this title for a number of reasons. And so for those of you who are or are not aware or need a refresher, I am a therapist in my regular life, as my main profession. And the idea of values and identifying your value system and honoring your value system came up significantly in session this week across a number of people. And so, I get a lot of my topics from either things that have come up in session or things that have come up in my regular life. And a lot of times when I counsel people through different areas of their lives, I, in my own reflections, think about how these things pertain to my own situation. Because, you teaching stuff, and I don't believe in being a hypocrite in my practice. And so the idea of value systems has come up a lot. So I just wanted to talk about it some more. And, as you all know, if you live on the internet at all, even a little bit, you know that the idea of being a high value man or a high value woman was shoved down our throats for like the last, I don't know, 2-3 years to nauseum, with the standard of high value being thin, beautiful, and wealthy in totality. But the things that have been outlined as high value on the internet, because it's been more specifically geared towards high value relationships and how we are high value, how valuable we are in relation to relationships. That's not really, for me, the definition that has been put out there. It never really has resonated with the true idea of what it means to be a valuable person or to have high values. And so I wanted to kind of tap into the idea of being a high value human. What does that even mean? How does that pertain to us? And why it's important that honestly all of us understand that we are or can be high value humans. It's just a matter of how you look at what values are. And so my definition of a high value human is a person who understands their value system and prioritizes living by it. Let me read that again. This is my definition of a high value human, and we're going to use this for the sake of the conversation today. So a high value human is a person who understands their value and understands their value system and prioritizes living by it. A person who understands their value system and prioritizes living by it. So what is a value system? What is a value system? Y'all know I like the dictionary. Y'all know I like a definition. I like a working definition so that we know that we're speaking the same language as we go through. So I looked it up, of course. And a value, and I pulled out 2 nouns. The first definition is the regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. The regard that something is held to deserve, the importance, worth, or usefulness of something. And the second definition is a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. Again, that second definition is a person's principles or standards of behavior, one's judgment of what is important in life. And so, one of the key things that falls out of these definitions when it comes to values is that values are relative and belong to the individual at hand. One of the main problems that came up when determining who was a high value man or who was a high value woman, and the points of controversy in that, was people were trying to place value on others when we don't all value the same thing. We don't all find the same things important. We don't all live by the same principles of behavior. We don't all deem certain everything to have the same importance, the same worth, or the same usefulness. Because we all live different lives and we all need different things. And so, where we are in our lives and what we need in our lives are different. And when you try to place one single stripe of value across the entire existence of humanity, then you miss out on a lot of things that a lot of people need. You ignore a lot of things that other people need. And you shame and uphold people based on the way that you see the world. But also, when you put one single stripe of value across all of the entire of humanity, you begin to devalue yourself in areas that are not relevant to you and how you feel. It's not relevant to you and what you think. You or it is important if you believe that you or it is important. It is a value if you say it is a value, and it is not if you don't think it is a value. Now, the things is that we get this crisscross because we think that what I value is what you should value, and what you value is what I should value. What I think is important is what you think should think is important, and what you think is important is what I should think is important, and that's just not how life works. We get ourselves in arguments with people. We get ourselves in debates with people. We get ourselves into disagreements with people, and we fail to meet a consensus a lot of the times because we are arguing based on things that are not based on completely different value systems. Based on completely different value systems. And so this is where a lot of things come into a lot of cognitive reframing comes into play when I'm in session. Why I say the phrase frequently, everybody doesn't think the way that you think in session. Because people get very, very frustrated with their loved ones. They get very, very frustrated with their lovers. They get very, very frustrated with their with the people in their communities and their coworkers because they are operating and looking at the world through one value system, and they simply cannot understand why people will behave the way that they behave. It's because we're operating at different value systems. It's because we're coming to this situation from completely different angles. Or even if we say that we're coming to it from the same angle, based on our behavior and the way that we respond to different things, shows that we're not. Or that there may be dissonance between what we say our value system is and the one that we actually live by. Which is why I went to the definition in the first place of saying that a person who understands their value system and prioritizes living by it. Because many of us say that we value certain things, but we don't live by it. Many of us say that we love certain things, but we don't actually cherish it and nurture it because it comes out in our behavior. Because if we truly value something, we would prioritize it. We would lean into it. We would show it love. We would give it time. We would give it attention. This is kind of where people are like, if they want to, they will. Or if somebody cares about you, they'll call. Yeah. There are reasons why you might rank lower in their value system and how and why their values might be compromised. But this is where it comes from. If something is actually valuable to you, you will give it your attention because it is important to you, because it has usefulness. And if something is of low value or of no value to you, you can live with or without it. If money is the most valuable thing to you, you can't live without it. You will be unhappy. If fitness, physicality is the most important thing to you, then that's what you're going to be reaching for, striving for in yourself, and then maybe with your partners. If respect is the most important thing to you, then you'll live by a creed of respecting others and expecting that respect back. But everybody don't live by the same principles. And even though many of us might say something like, I value respect, I'm gonna respect you, you're gonna respect me. Some of us sit around dishing out disrespect all the time. Some of us find much more value, much more utility in causing chaos than we would ever find in things being peaceful. And so, though that might not be an admirable value system to cause chaos, to the person who is doing it, if they prioritize it, if it's important and useful to them, it's valuable to them. It's high value to them if they do it all the time. Why would they do something like that? Oh, because if you're the harbinger of chaos, then you get a chance to control the narrative a little bit easier. You get to throw things off on your own accord. And having control of the world like that sometimes is valuable to people. But I'm veering a little bit to the left. Values are relative to the person, are relative. What I see as important is different than what the next person sees as important. And the values belong to the individual. Unfortunately, common sense ain't common and values ain't universal. No matter how hard you want them to be. No matter if a person says they value what you value. Their actions speak louder than words because actions show where your actual values are and reveal your character. I'm speaking in a lot of cliches today, but they fit in. All right, so that was point one. Actually, values are relative and belong to the individual. The next point that I had regarding values and value systems are values come from where do values come from? Values come from what we deem to be important out of the things that we are taught and the things that we experience. Values come from what we deem to be important. And we get the information of ciphering in and out what is important based on what we're taught and based on our lived experiences. So it is very important that you instill certain values in your children so that they grow up to be human beings that can collaborate with society. But everybody don't do that. That's why common sense ain't common. Everybody doesn't teach their children the same things. Everybody doesn't learn the same things. Everybody doesn't experience the same things. This is why when you grow up in certain spaces, certain things are important to you and other things are not. When you grow up in poverty, getting to the money, hustle, grind culture becomes of high value to you because that's how you get it. You grow up in a more affluent space, then perhaps investments become more important to you because you have the resources to do that and because you were taught to do that and because from your experiences that's what works. But if you don't have the same teaching as the next person, if you don't have the same experiences as the next person, you may not have the same value system as the next person. If you haven't lived the same life as the next person, you might not have the same value system as the next person, or you might not have the same execution of your values. But that's why it's really important that if we want to be high value people, I stopped myself because I began to go back on my own definition of what a high value person was. I said that a high value person understands their value system and prioritizes living by it. And so I was just about to tell you that if you want to be high value and you want to raise high value children, then you need to implement things like respect and discipline and love. I stopped myself because those are the things that I hold as high value. So those are the things that I will be instilling in myself and in my children. But those are also the things I will look for reflected in the people who I associate with because those are my high values. And if you don't possess those things, I'm not going to see you necessarily as a high value person. That does not mean that you are not high value to your own definition, in your own regard, in your own life, in your own circles, to your own circumstances. I don't necessarily morally agree with everything that somebody who doesn't believe in those things will find valuable, but who am I to say that they are a low value individual when they know what they value and they live by it? They're high value to them and the people who they associate with, and God bless them and Godspeed. If they don't have things like kindness in their value system. But it's not what they want. And to be honest, if it's not deep within them, they're going to fall back on that value anyways. And so it's best that we understand people's value systems for what they really are so that we know who we're dealing with and why we're dealing with them and how we're dealing with them. So we know what to expect out of them. And so we know what to not expect out of them. Because people's value systems really will inform, their character really will inform what we can expect out of an individual. Everybody know they call me church girl in the streets. I do church announcements at the top of my podcast. I come in here with my church clothes still on. I stay posting like choir stuff. Like, this is value. This is a thing that is high value in my life. Not just my church life, because my church life is when I come together with the other Christians on a Sunday. But my spiritual life as a whole is something that is a high value to me, to the point where I engage in my spiritual practices on a daily basis. I pray. I pray. It's not that complicated. I read my Bible on days where other people haven't mandated a Bible study. If you're my TikTok family, you know. Because it's important to me. My spiritual life is important to me. It is of high value to me. And because of high value to me, I place importance on it. I prioritize it in different parts of my day and different parts of my life. And because of that, people have certain expectations from me. You call me at 11 o'clock on a Sunday, you're not getting your phone call answered. You got to blow me up and let me know there's like the house on fire. And even then I might be like, bruh, did you dial 911? I don't know if nothing I can do about it, but I'm gonna ask the church, pray for me while we're still here. My values will inform my behavior. It will help you expect certain things from me. And because I know that that is something that I value and I live by it consistently, I prioritize it. I consider it a high value. I consider it highly valuable that this is something that I engage with. And somebody else who prioritizes going to church and living a spiritual life in the in between time is going to also consider the way that I live my life to be highly valuable. It's completely irrelevant to somebody who want to sleep until 2 o'clock and their rest on a Sunday is the most valuable thing to them. We live different lives, and I'm not here to judge them. This is just the example I'm using right now, because there's plenty other things under the sun that we find valuable differently. I'm not here to judge them, but that's just where they place their value system, and they're going to act accordingly. I got this value. I'm very aware that I got this church teaching, this consistency in my spiritual life from my teachings, from my experiences. I was brought up in the church. My parents met in the church. I did a whole episode on it. It's that growing up church part 1, I think. Go back and watch it if you want to know more. So it's definitely taught. But then also through my experiences, I've gone stints without going. And my life is much more peaceful this way. I feel much more connected to God this way. Also through my teachings. See, through my teachings, I was taught I should pray every day, but I ain't do it. But then through my experiences of praying every day, I saw how much utility I have in it. And so it became something that through teaching I was taught, I was exposed to, but through experience, it really solidified the value system. Because I find my life much more smooth, much more clear, much more peaceful when I do pray. If you haven't been taught that and you don't have that experience in life, I can't expect you to value that. I can't hold you to that. I don't judge you for that. We just don't exist on the same plane of values. And so thus, if I'm looking for you, you're looking for me to link up, As friends, we might have values that are that line up in different areas, but according to that, we don't have high values in the same spot, and that's okay. That's okay. So I'm gonna keep moving on because I'm gonna be talking forever. So, the next point that I had when it comes to values, because I know I said a lot that, and I truly believe that people behave according to their values, especially the things that they truly value within their hearts. But I do understand that value systems can be compromised, which is why you are of high value when you have the value systems and you prioritize living by it. But there are things that can compromise our ability to live according to our value system. One of which is that values can be compromised by circumstances. Values can absolutely be compromised by circumstances. You might value honesty. You might value hard work. You might value fairness and justice. And you might fall on hard times when you got to steal a loaf of bread to eat. They call Aladdin all sorts of hood rats. Street rats, excuse me. They didn't call him a hood rat. They called him a street rat. Because they assumed that he was operating out of a different value system, one in which thievery was prioritized. But due to his circumstances, yeah, I'm making an insert about Aladdin. But due to his circumstances, he said, "Gotta eat to live, gotta steal to eat. Otherwise, we'd get along." Them is the lyrics to the song. Gotta eat to live, gotta steal to eat. Otherwise, we get along. If his value systems weren't being compromised by his circumstances, he would be able to display the fact that he and the other people in the city, Agrabah, actually value the same things. And so sometimes we judge folks because of the things that they're doing, because we don't think that they are good people. We think that they are immoral. We think that they have low values and low standards, but some of their circumstances are informing their compromised value system. And had they had everything that they needed, they wouldn't. There's a difference between a booster and a klepto. There is a difference between a booster and a klepto. Kleptomania is actually diagnosable. It's when people steal for the thrill of it. People steal for the thrill of it. They will put inexpensive clothes in a designer bag and walk out of the store with it. With the money, enough money to pay for it in the bag. Because the thrill of stealing is with them. A booster is a street entrepreneur. A booster is surviving. You said what? A booster is surviving. Now, I have another point that I will speak to the klepto in just a moment. But your average person who can't afford things will pay for them. Because we have the value system that there should be an exchange for goods. The booster absolutely believes in the value system that there should be an exchange for goods. They steal it to sell it. Not using it all. But circumstances will. First of all, that's actually a more intricate point, because through teaching and experience, the value that you can get something to sell easily like that has been instilled, has been taught. It's been and it's been solidified by the actions. But the overall value system that they might actually have within their heart that is contradictory to the one that they're living by might be that there should be an exchange for goods, which is why they sell it and they can. But given the right resources to be able to just buy things and not have to exist like that, and maybe even be a store owner, I'm sure they would choose different. It's a little complex. And I did say I would speak to the complexity of the klepto because I didn't want to just leave them out there as a person who just has a value system that is different than mine, in which they value stealing, because that's not necessarily the point, because values can also be compromised by sickness and suffering. Sickness and suffering are circumstances in which your value system can be compromised. I dance on the subject of addiction a lot because it has touched my life. And I've seen the sides of addiction and recovery and heard many stories from both those who have gone through the process and those who are loving people who are addicts. And one of the things that comes up, one of the phrases that is frequently said by people who don't understand the path of addiction is, if they thought I was important, they would quit. Or if the family was important to them, they would quit. And what they are articulating in those types of statements is that if this individual valued us more than they valued drugs, then they would quit the drugs. But unfortunately, the reason why that is not accurate is because sickness is a circumstance, addiction is a sickness, and it compromises your value system. It makes you go against your values. The same person who cannot stop drinking because they have the sickness of addiction will cry in their car or their garage about how they're, or at the bar about how they're losing their family and they can't do anything about it. They don't not value their family. They don't necessarily value their substance more than they value their family. It's that the sickness is causing them to behave in ways that are contradictory to what they actually find valuable. Because I would venture to say that if an alcoholic or a drug addict truly, truly valued their drugs more than their family, then they would be like, deuces. I'm going on a binge, which happens. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't value their family, but like it would be much more common. Compromises to your value system is when you are engaging in activities that are contradictory to the things that you say, that you feel, genuinely feel are important. Behaving in ways that are contradictory to what you say is important articulates that you don't actually value the thing that you're connected to. Feeling that things are important, but being unable to adhere to it is more symptomatic that your value system is being compromised by something. If we are healthy and well, and we truly believe in something, there shouldn't be too much that keeps us from being able to live by the things that we value, connect to the things that we value, because they're truly important to us. And it's hard not to prioritize the things that are important to us. But then again, circumstances can compromise our values, can make us make decisions that we otherwise wouldn't make. And one of the main things that compromises our values is a lack of consciousness of what our values are in the first place, which is how I got to the definition of what a high value person is. It's understanding their value system. Many of us don't take enough time to actually study ourselves and understand our value systems, understand where we are operating that isn't contradictory to what we are or who we want to be. But when we understand our value system and then we prioritize living by it, which sometimes is natural as breathing air and other times is an uphill battle, but it requires choice. It requires consistency. It requires dedication. It requires work. It's still a value. If you're able to understand your value system and prioritize living by it, for better or for worse, you're high value. But if you don't understand your value system in the first place, your natural instincts might take you away from the things that you actually, if you thought about it, were a little bit more or beneficial to you. This is why people change with age and maturity. That's what maturity is. Understanding of your value system and growing to live to it. That is maturity. Immaturity is being out here just doing whatever in response to whatever stimuli walks across your face. Maturity is understanding your value system. Maturity is growing into your values, growing into a high value individual and standing on it. Because as people mature, as they grow, as they gain more experiences, they realize the areas and the times in which they were compromising themselves. They actually weren't living by their values. This is why when people grow and they go through their spiritual journeys or their self-love or self-care journeys, they start dropping off people, places, and things. Because when they did an assessment of their values, they realized that they were connected to people who were not high in the same value system as them, or that they themselves were operating outside of their own true value system and just going with the stimulus that was around them, going with the most exciting thing. Going with the most exciting thing is a real easy way to unconsciously compromise your values, because sometimes values aren't always wrapped up in the most exciting thing. Because what's good for you ain't always most exciting. I like Pepsi in a can on a hot day. I need water. Like, it's just simply not as exciting. But if I love myself and I value my wellness and my urinary tract, I'll drink water. Oh, I just spilled water all on myself. You said, and not drink Pepsi in a can. And drink Pepsi in a can on occasion. Balance. So be conscious of what you value so that you can value it. Be aware of who you are and whether or not you are holding your boundaries well enough to consider your own self high value. I don't have to value what the next person values. As a matter of fact, if our values don't align, I don't even need you to see me as a high value individual. I just need you to respect me or move. Because we don't really have any business. Because respect is one of my values. And so, like, if that's not one of yours, it's not that hard to be high value. It's not that hard to be high value if you actually care about it. If you actually know what your true values are. When you lost, it's real hard. When you're living by somebody else's values, it's real hard. When you know yourself and you grow yourself, it becomes much more natural. And you'll also attract the type of people who value what you value and will help you uphold it. All right. So that's all I have to say on that subject. Thank you guys for being with me today. I'm going to go ahead and close out with a prayer, a half announcements, and then we can get on up out of here. All right. In Jesus' name, dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day. I thank you for the opportunity to spend time with you. I thank you for leading me and guiding me and having me access the types of values that will allow me to be a peaceful person. And I ask that you be with everyone else, be with those who are under the sound of my voice as they establish their own value system, that they also seek you in the process, that they seek peace and love and joy and the fruits of the spirits in the process of their value journey. I thank you. I love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So let's see. Thank y'all for being here today. I was reminded that I did not drop my Cash App last time that I did this thing because I forgot. So if you would like to donate to, honestly, it's not just a moment with Mo Sketty podcast that you will be donating to. Actually, if you would like to make a contribution towards the Mo Sketty birthday spectacular extravaganza, fantastic, wonderful, amazing variety show, you can hit my cash app, hashtag Mo Sketty, MOESGHETTI is right here. Hashtag Moschetti. And yeah, if you send me money, that's where your donations will be going to, making sure that I am able to live out all my artistic pursuits, pay for my studio time, pay for my everything else I got to pay for this variety show. So that's where it will be going to, not just to my pocket. So if you want to make a donation, in Jesus' name, amen, send it to me. All right. Outside of that, buy me a coffee, buy me a car, whatever's in your wallet, whatever's on your heart. It could be big or small. It doesn't matter. Every little penny counts. Is that it? Is that all? Am I forgetting everything? Anything? I don't think so. So with that being said, I'm really excited about some of the things that I'm cooking up for you guys in the next couple of months. You'll hear about them soon enough. So, yep. Thank you for spending a moment with me. I am Moschetti. I'll see you next time. Take me out, Tone.